In this video, I am going to show you how to make a clay skull. So the materials that you are going to need are going to be a piece of cardboard, a paper towel, some plastic knives, a pencil, paper clip, and then kind of your skull template. I have this 5.5 by 7.5 piece of paper that shows you about approximately how big you want your clay to be cut so that you're going to be able to fit your template here for cutting for the little ones. So unfortunately I don't have a large block of clay that I cut this from, so I kind of had to make do. So here's my piece of clay that I have cut, and I'm going to place it on my paper towel. I'm using the paper towel because the paper towel will help absorb the moisture and help the clay dry out a little bit faster. It also keeps the clay from sticking to whatever surface you might have. So cardboard is one way that you can work. Styrofoam square rectangular plates would also work if you have them the correct size. Small clipboards, though I'd be nervous about the clipboard becoming too moist and too wet and then damaging it, but I'm sure you can find other things that you could use. So the first step that we are going to do is we are going to take this template and we are going to place it on top of the clay. Now, boys and girls, when you go to trace this, you want to trace lightly. My clay here is pretty thick. I don't know if you're going to end up with as thick of a piece of clay as this here. So I'm going to place my template down, okay, my shape of my skull down, and I'm going to take my pencil and I'm lightly going to trace around my template. I am then going to remove my template, and then I'm going to take my knife and I am going to cut on the line. So I'm going to pretend like I'm cutting some cookies or cutting a piece of pizza. And it's okay to take your base and to turn it, but you want to make sure that you're cutting on the line. And notice I'm going just up and down. I'm using an up and down motion. You want to try and get these edges nice and smooth. Keep them smooth. So I'm just going right on the line and I'm pressing down through the clay to remove the clay around my skull. I'm going to save this extra clay, and I want you to notice that when I do this extra clay, I'm not having the extra clay all in different spots, but that I'm grouping it together. By grouping my clay together, what it's doing is it's keeping the moisture in the clay. If I do something like this, these pieces are going to dry out much faster than if I keep them in a group. So we want to make sure we keep the group together. Now, I'm working from my dining room. If you're working on a table or your desk, you probably don't need extra paper down on your desk because that can be washed off later. But because I'm working on my dining room table, I'm choosing to put down some paper just to protect it. And then lastly, right down here. And take your time. It's not a race. Do a nice job. Now that you have the shape of your skull for your project, I'm just taking my fingers and I'm just going to smooth this out. And that's okay, you can do that too. Now I am going to draw on my features. So I'm going to use this little piece of clay here. It kind of looks a little bit like a boot. Piece of clay here to show you how to draw on the clay. We want to draw lightly on the clay. We don't want to draw so lightly that we can't see our line, but we also don't want to dig too deep. If we dig too deep, then we're going to cut our clay and then it's going to fall apart. So this is the type of line that we are looking for right here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in 2 kind of big circles. These are going to be my eyes. I'm going to put in a triangle for my nose, and I am going to put in kind of a rectangle for my mouth. If I want to show teeth, I can add a line here, and I can add some teeth to my mask. Okay? Once you have your eyes, your nose, and your mouth in, then we are going to use the extra clay to make additions to our skull. Notice how big I made my eyes. I didn't make them tiny, okay? Notice the amount of space that this took up. So now I'm going to take my clay and I'm going to pinch some clay off, and I am going to make some teeth. Now I've decided I'm going to make a pattern on my teeth. So I think I am going to create 2 of these teeth on a raised surface. So what we're going to be doing, this is what's called a relief. A relief is when we build up onto a surface or we take away from a surface. You are going to be building up on a surface. So I'm going to take my clay and I am going to use my fingers to pinch and make a rectangle. I'm just using my fingers to pinch. Now sometimes you could also do kind of roll a little worm, roll what is called a coil in clay. I could roll a coil. And I'm going to see if I can't make that fit. Well, look, that's a little too big. So I'm going to cut this down. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to make it a little shorter so that it fits. So there's one tooth. And I decided I'm going to do a pattern. So I'm going to do these 2 teeth and then this one right here. So I'm going to go ahead and make 2 more teeth. And again, I'm just using my fingers. I don't want the clay. I want the clay to stay nice and thick. That's the other thing. If I take clay and I pinch the clay too skinny, you see how thin that is? Then this is more likely to break, okay, and not stay. So I want you to notice the difference between the 2. Can you see how this one here is really skinny and this is nice and thick? We want to keep the clay thick. So I'm going to place, I'm going to put this back down. So there's 1 tooth there. I'm just putting it there in place right now. I'm not going to attach it yet. There's a special trick for attaching that you need to know how to do. So there's another tooth and my last tooth. So there's my teeth. So I've decided that I'm going to do a pattern, and I'm going to take this and I'm just going to make this tooth a little bit more square for me. So I'm going to use my knife. What you're doing right now, boys and girls, this is called hand building, which means you're using your hands to build the clay up and to create your work of art. So when you create like this, where you're just using your hands, this is called hand building. So there's my teeth. Now I need to attach my teeth. If I just put it in the special oven to fire like this, these are going to fall off. We don't want them to fall off. So watch what I'm going to do. I've just moved my teeth, and now I'm going to take my paper clip. This is a fun tool. I'm going to take the end of my paper clip and I'm going to bend it out. Now this becomes my tool and this becomes the handle. So I'm going to hold the handle, and I am just going to, and again, I'm not going to dig deep. I don't need to dig really deep. Just very lightly, okay? Just enough to roughen up the surface of the clay. I'm going to roughen this up, and I'm going to go ahead and rough that up. Now, one thing I did not do is I did not get myself a little bit of water, which I should do. So if I did that, I would put my finger in a little bowl of water and I would just drip water right there. I would put those 2 together and then lightly press down. What's happening is if I attach 2 pieces of clay together like this, there's no way they're going to stick. If I have little fingers and I attach, there's no way they're going to stick. But if I put 2 fingers on either side, like what I did here, both on the clay and on the back of the tooth. When I put those fingers together, they're going to attach. Adding a little drop of extra water, that acts as the glue to kind of hold and seal that together. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roughen up this. Now, if you're lucky and your clay is really wet, then you may not need the drops of water, but I highly suggest the drops of water. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that down there. Now, I don't want to press to make it flat, but just enough to get it to stick. And I'm going to do this over here. And then one more time right here. What we're doing right now, this is called scoring. So I'm scoring the clay. And when I add a little bit of water to it, that water is kind of like the glue. That's called slip. So I'm going to just kind of dot that in with my water and then just press lightly down. To make my nose, I am going to take my clay and I am going to make kind of a triangle, using my fingers to make a triangle, and I can kind of pinch the clay and I could actually make a nose that's coming up. And I had a feeling this is going to happen, and you're going to have to just be patient. It is evening and my dogs are hungry and they're telling me that they want food. So here's my nose. I have my nose right there. I'm going to, again, I'm going to score the back, kind of like a complex tic-tac-toe or like a bird's nest. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Make kind of like a bird's nest. You should have like a little thing of water by you. Put your finger in that little bit of water, put a drop or two on one side, and then press down. Okay, so there's my nose. Now if I want to do, something else with the nose that's kind of cool, if you wanted to do a nose and the nose want to be like a little more, well, no, I'm not going to do that. Never mind. I can take 2 pieces of clay and I can roll them into a ball. So there's one ball. Here's another ball. Oh, that's not a ball. Let's get it into a circle. There we go, a little better. I am going to go ahead and this is where you get to have a little bit of fun with the personality. So look at what happened. I can put some eyeballs here. I could put eyeballs so it looks like he's looking up. I could put some eyeballs so it looks like he's looking kind of to the side. I could put some eyeballs so it looks like he's cross-eyed. So you can have a little bit of fun as to where do you want your eyeballs to kind of go. So I think I'm going to do my eyeballs like this. I am going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit of texture there, and score there. I'm going to score here. I'm going to get a little bit of water and tap a little water onto where I score, and I'm going to press down. I am also going to do this same thing here. Again, if you do not score and add that little bit of water, then it will not stay. It will not stick. So I have to score here and I have to score here. Add that little bit of water onto one side. Notice I only did it here. I did not do it here too, just on one side. And I'm going to press down. Okay. Now if I really want to have a little bit of fun with this, I can use my pencil and I can pinch in my pencil to make some eyeballs. Okay. So there is your clay. If you want to add cheeks, you could add cheeks, little raised cheeks if you want. I would not use a lot of clay. I don't have a lot of room here, but if you wanted to add cheeks, you could roll kind of 2 more little balls here, and I could place some little pieces of clay here. This is going to be a little different than using my scoring and adding water. If your clay is wet, you can add little cheeks like this, and then what I would do is take my finger and I'm just going to kind of press down all the way around to kind of make little cheekbones. But you know what? I'm not really liking that, so I think I would probably leave the cheekbones out, honestly. But I already added one, so I guess I'll add the other. So I'm just going to press down. And notice I'm not pressing on top. I don't want to make it too flat. And notice I am not putting my fingers onto these lines. Now, if you don't see these lines, if it's hard time to see these lines here, you can go back and retrace them. If you can't see this line, you can go back and kind of make these lines a little bit deeper, but don't make them so deep that you end up going through the clay. Okay, so there is my little clay skull. Now, one thing your teacher is going to do when you're done, you're going to raise your hand, and your teacher is going to come around, and they are going to lift up your clay skull, and we are going to add a hole at the top. This will be for hanging, so that when you're done and you take this home, you're going to be able to display this on a nail at home sometime. So I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to take my pencil, and right in the middle, leaving some space at the top, your teacher is going to put a hole through your clay piece. Might be a good idea to keep it in one hand, turn it over, kind of smooth that back down. And then the other thing that I would do is I would put the year, I would put your name, so I'm putting my name here, and then I would put some type of notation so that you know. So I'm putting an L for Lengari, and Miss Shrestha would put an S with maybe a circle, so that we know that all of the clay skulls that are been made that have an L on them are going to go to Mr. Lengari's class, and all the ones with an S go to Miss Shrestha's class. So that's how we just tell the different teachers apart. So then once you do that, you're going to put this down, and your teacher will put that down, and we will set it aside for it to dry. Your next step will be adding color. So I hope you have fun building your clay skulls.